The slide that's on the screen right now is taken from a topic that we discussed during the Memorial Day weekend. Every year we have an event. For 35 years we've been conducting an event over the Memorial Day weekend. And the theme this year was this one. So for this evening, I took some of the slides from that event and modified it somewhat. But it's a universal message for all practicing devotees, because as you know, I'll remind you what you already know. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had a vision that he received from his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should go around the world, not just in India, but around the world. And he, Bhaktisiddhanta, had a plan that he would bring the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, because the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are non-different than the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, or the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam are non-different than the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So he, Bhaktisiddhanta, had a disciple, Nishikant Sanyal, or one of his very learned disciples. In fact, sometimes he wrote and Bhaktisiddhanta's name went on it, and sometimes the other way around. They were very close. Professor in the university in Orissa. So Nishikant Sanyal was assigned the service of creating a book. It eventually got published. The departure to England was delayed because the publication of the book was delayed from the printer's end. Like that thick. Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Title of the book. Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Because the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when the book was ready, that's when the two sannyasis went to England. And Srila Prabhupada, of course, was a very careful follower of Bhaktisiddhanta. He didn't exactly do what he did, but he did what he did. He followed his footsteps. So he, given the service by Bhaktisiddhanta to take the same thing, as was given to Ban Maharaj and others, to take the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the English-speaking parts of the world, he wanted to have Srimad Bhagavatam. So before he left to go to America, first canto Srimad Bhagavatam, because that was his mission, to give the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the English-speaking parts of the world. And his method, along with giving classes and everything else in his association and prasadam, of course, in Kirtan, was Srimad Bhagavatam. And then diversification, of course, after that, but very focused on Srimad Bhagavatam. Very focused. And the message of the Bhagavatam, how the mission moved forward very strongly, was kirtan, prasadam, and distribution of books, and including the printing and distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to share a little Prabhupada story. Maybe 20-something years of my life as a brahmachari was very singularly focused on distributing books. And during part of that time, I had been part of what was called at that time the airport party, because there was the bus party and then there was the airport party. The bus party crisscrossed all around U.S. with, loaded with brahmacharis and waddling around with so many books in the bins underneath the bus. And the airport party. So one of our services was, whenever there was a new volume, let's say Canto 3, Part 2, an air container would arrive, and we would look at the book and start reading the book and then distributing the book. And then came third Canto Part 3 and third Canto Part 4, and the people we would meet, not always, but sometimes would ask, where are the other parts? It's a good question, very natural question. And so it was asked to Srila Prabhupada, what should we say? And he gave such a nice answer that it worked. He said, you can tell them, when you lick an ice cream, from any side is sweet. It worked. Okay. Life and soul. And, people that didn't know anything about anything. Some people knew something. Some people knew very little. But, travelers of all descriptions going through the airports. In the beginning of Canto 1, Chapter 2, because Canto 1, Chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam is the 6 questions. There's many other things, but the 6 basic questions. And Chapter 2 of Canto 1 is the answers to those 6 questions, 2 and 3. So let us recite this verse together. This is a nice verse that when reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, it's good to speak it. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. About a month ago, someone asked, why Narayan Rishi? Narayan okay, Vyasa okay, Saraswati okay. Why? What's the relevance? Why is this Narayan Rishi mentioned in this verse of the 4? There's many things, so I will share some of those many things. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse. Vyas first wrote Srimad Bhagavatam in Badrik Ashram. Some of us will be going to visit Badrik Ashram in September, very soon, where Narayan preside, not reside, but preside. Therefore, Narayan are the presiding deities of the scripture, since they have presiding authority over the place where it was written. And there's another explanation that's given. This is 12th Canto, Chapter 4. Long ago, this essential anthology, that's Srimad Bhagavatam, of all the Puranas was spoken by the infallible Lord Narayan Rishi to Narada, who then repeated it to Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas. Now, the Kalpabheda, that is to say, in the histories, in the Puranas, it doesn't always indicate this very same day of Brahma. It may be for different days of Brahma, that Kalpabheda, and events that we know take place because our understanding from the very beginning this knowledge was imparted into the heart of Brahma. Brahma gave it to Narada. Narada gave it to Vyasa. So in a different day of Brahma, Narayan Rishi gave it to Narada, who gave it to Vyasa. So his name is mentioned right in the same Bhagavatam text. And there's other explanations, but that's a little bonus for this evening. Why Narayan amongst the four? Because of my involvement in China, I became familiar with Light of the Bhagavat and a little history. When Srila Prabhupada was, before he was living at the Radha Damodar temple, those two little rooms, how many here have been to those two little rooms? Few. Okay. Someday. There was another place that he was staying. There's details, but it was by Keshigat, in one of the 5,000 temples in Vrindavan that Prabhupada writes about, was the place where he stayed. And it was like an estate, a wealthy family's as the practice was, many families lived in one house. What do you call it? Extended family. So it's kind of like a mansion, but just brick, just a Vrindavan town building. And you walk in, there's a gate, and then you walk in the front gate, and there's a little courtyard. And in the courtyard, there's a cow. So they maintained a cow. The cow maintained them. And then walking up 26 steps, directly across is the deity. And, it's just a little deity in a little temple area. Then Prabhupada's room was some steps up above. So when he was living there, part of what he did was he had begun the translation of Srimad Bhagavatam, and following Bhaktisiddhanta, he began writing in English back to Godhead, because Bhaktisiddhanta had 3 publications, one in English. I'm painting a picture that Prabhupada was a follower of Bhaktisiddhanta. So one of the things that he did was he went to Delhi with his Back to Godhead magazine and sold subscriptions. Part of the idea was propagation of the message of Lord Chaitanya, and part of the idea was finding people that were potential donors to help him publish Srimad Bhagavatam. So in Delhi. And in the course of being in Delhi, one gentleman gave him a flyer that he had received in the mail from a person in Japan who was proposing to have, this was in January 1971. So it was after World War II, and it just started the arrangements for foreign countries to allow visas, because doors were shut during the war and shortly after the war, because they don't want people coming in and like that. So Japan was permitting visas to come to Japan. So Congress for the Cultivation of Human Spirit, which can mean almost anything, right? Congress for the Cultivation of the Human Spirit. And he was inviting people to come and to be presenters. So Prabhupada wrote to the organizer. He did all kinds of writing letters to people in faraway places, and requested the man to give him an invitation such that he could get a visa to go to India. To go to Japan and be a presenter. And the man wrote such a letter. And then Prabhupada receiving the letter, he never went because he didn't have money to buy a visa or a passport. He didn't have either, so he didn't go. But being the propagator of the message, he then decided, let me write a book, or a short book, small book, some 40-something verses, drawing from scenes of nature from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Canto 10, Chapter 20 is scenes of nature. It's this, after the rainy season comes the spring and then fall season in Vrindavan. So Chapter 20 of Canto 10. So it's scenes of nature. What's it like in Vrindavan after the rainy season? Taking scenes from nature, Prabhupada had this impression that people in the Far East, they like to learn lessons of life from scenes of nature. So that's what he did. And he wrote the book. In many other details I won't go into because it's not for this evening. But he called it Light of the Bhagavad. And the title, Light of the Bhagavad, although it was Canto 10, Chapter 20, comes from Canto 1, Chapter 3. You know the verse. The verse in Chapter 3 is a response to a question in Chapter 1. Here's Chapter 1. There's Sutta, the assembly of sages. There's Shaunaka. They're in the forest of Naimisharanya. Looks like a fantastic forest. Here's the question. Since Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the Master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. That's the question. And then the answer is the brilliant as the sun. Krishna, let's say the verse together. Krishne svadhamo bhagate dharmo jnana dibi saha kalau nashta drishesha anarko danoditaha. This Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Dharma Jnanadi Bisaha. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the siege of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So it's the light of the Bhagavad. This Bhagavad is brilliant as the sun. Krishna Sva Dhamo Bhagate. Krishna has gone to his own abode. Puranarko Dunoditaha. People shall get light from this Bhagavatam, which is as brilliant as the sun. It's a nice metaphor. When the sun sets, it's dark. No, in India, without all the electricity and other systems of making things look light, it was dark. But when the moon would rise, then there'd be some moonlight. And then you could see instead of darkness. The metaphor is the moon is soothing and cool, and there's less light. But when the light, just after the setting of the sun, the moon may rise. After the setting of the sun of Krishna, the moon, as brilliant as the sun, arose, through which people in the dark age of Kali can get light. That's the metaphor. It's a very, very beautiful metaphor. So there's the BTG illustration. There's Vyas holding up a light, and the light is shining on Krishna, and people in the dark age of Kali can get light. And it's a dark age. in disciplic succession, a very celebrated member of Lord Chaitanya's followers, one of the 6 Goswamis was Jiva Goswami. He likes Srimad Bhagavatam like anything. And so here's a reference from Tattva Sandarbha, the first of the 6 Sandarbhas, just drawing directly from Skanda Purana. Srimad Bhagavatam and the personality of Godhead are always of the same nature, possessed of eternal existence, full knowledge, and complete bliss. Nice. So, Krishna departed, the light of the Bhagavad appeared, and their tattva is the same, always of the same nature. So, how can we get access to Krishna? There are different ways you get access to Krishna, but they found one of the principal foundational ways was Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's what Srila Prabhupada came to give. And I want to put something first. Here's the first. Here's Rupa Goswami's, one of the verses from Namastaka. And the Sanskrit, vacho, vachaka, vacho, vachaka. I translated as the Supreme Personality of God. Literally it's Bhagavat, Nama, Swarup Dvayam. So it's the sound form of Krishna is his name. And then there's the person denoted. I'll read the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is manifested in this realm in 2 forms, as the designated, or Vacha, or Parabrahman. Just like the deity form is Parabrahman. Or when Krishna came, Parabrahman, and performed his pastimes, Parabrahman. And then there's the designator, Vachaka, or Shabda Brahman, or sound vibration. So this is Rupa Goswami's writing the same thing that Jiva Goswami wrote. And Jiva Goswami wrote following Rupa, wrote what he wrote. But he's just drawing from the scriptures, as is Rupa. I think the latter is certainly more merciful than the former. So they're the same, but one is more merciful. And the sound vibration is more merciful. And while there's emphasis in chanting the holy name, this is Bhakti Siddhanta writing. This is just drawn from an essay that he wrote. That when the emphasis on Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, etc., the means for this age of Kali is the chanting of the holy name. His explicit teaching in this regard is the name implies Harikatha. He gives the example, just like we don't worship the form of Krishna alone, we worship the form of Krishna with Shakti. So Harikatha is the Shakti, or the Radha, or the Lakshmi of Narayan, or the Sita of Ram, and we hear Harikatha along with the chanting. So when there's emphasis, his teaching is, when there's emphasis on the holy name, it's implied, because it's incomplete. It must be accompanied with Harikatha. And then specifically in the same little essay, the Srimad Bhagavatam is that Ananda aspect. So Sachit Ananda, the form of the Lord. Anyway, one can get access to the fullness of the Ananda of the name by accompanying it with Srimad Bhagavatam. So we do both. That's the point. There are many, many, many. This is not going to be the topic this evening. There's another. I spent a lot of time going through finding references and references and references and references and so many references in the other Puranas, specifically speaking the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. specifically. Padma Purana is a big one. There's a whole section, Bhagavat Mahatmya section. And in that Bhagavat Mahatmya section, it specifically says each of the 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam, they represent the body of Krishna. The 2 lotus feet, first 2 cantos, etc. We'll say it again. The 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam are manifestations of, through sound, are manifestations of the form of Krishna. So if you want the form of Krishna to be something that you're intimately feeling connected with, chant and read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. And then the revelation from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and from the purification that comes from chanting the holy name, the form of the Supreme Lord can become revealed. In another section of Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami writes, without the help of Srimad Bhagavatam, other scriptures cannot actually depict reality. That's a strong statement. Because, we'll just go some steps back. In all the Vedas, according to what Krishna says in Bhagavata, the purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. Do you know the verse? Vedaishcha Sayurvayar, Aham Eva Vedyo. So Krishna is saying, the purpose of all the Vedas is to know me. And that's all the Vedas. Now, how many divisions are there within the Vedas? Just take, the vast majority of the Vedas is Karma Kanda. How can you say the purpose of the Karma Kanda is to know Krishna? There's a whole nice description. For people in this mode and people of this inclination, gradually to lift them, because the lifting power is the very source. It's coming from the breathing of Narayana. And the breathing of Narayana can bring one to Narayana. The purpose of the Vedas, the purpose of even the Karma Kanda rituals, the purpose of anything that's Vedic is to know Krishna. And the other scriptures standing alone, they don't have the efficacy to bring the transcendental reality without Srimad Bhagavatam. Without the Shuddha Sattva, the Sattva doesn't, it's incomplete. What to speak of the other forms of literature. Many of you like reading Prabhupada's books. Many of you like reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm one of such persons. So you know this phrase from 112, because we chanted together 114. The first 3 verses are kind of like Mahima verses. Da, 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 da. So this is verse number 2 of the first canto, chapter 1. This is part of it. This Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion, for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold tapatrayon mulanam. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. So if you know somebody that's undergoing some misery, encourage them to read Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you're going through some misery, everyone's going through some misery of one kind or another, read Srimad Bhagavatam. The power, the declaration is, it has the power to uproot the miseries. Means the very cause of the misery. The cycle of birth and death, having a material body. Uproot it. And reality distinguished from illusion. Now that's the statement of the Bhagavatam itself, and Jiva Goswami is saying the same thing with other scriptural references that say the same thing. The reality, even through scriptural reference, can't be properly distinguished without reference to Srimad Bhagavatam. It's powerful. So, I was asked to encourage you all to read Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what I'm doing. Now, there was a document you were supposed to have received, a PDF. So I'm going to make you can look at it now or not. But this is Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur making some reference. So I have a printed copy. Here's his commentary. This verse, 111 Bhagavatam, indicates that Bhagavatam is another form of Krishna, similar to the oneness of I and mine, that is, Krishna and the book about Krishna. So, Vacha and Vachaka, same thing. Thus, it bears no comparison with other works. Krishna has appeared as Bhagavatam through Shukadev and Parikshit, and like the sun among the planets, it shines among the Puranas. It has 12 forms or volumes, just as the sun has 12 forms for each of the months of the year. With 18,000 verses like its leaves, it has appeared like a desired tree to fulfill the goals of the great devotees. They're nice. Glorification of the Bhagavatam. And here's another, this light of the Bhagavat verse. Here's his writing. You asked where Dharma has taken shelter. Please understand the answer now. Krishna, having departed from his abode Dwarka, Swadharma, arriving at Prabhas, and then disappeared along with his 6 powers, such as Dharma and Jnana. The details are not mentioned clearly because the pastime of Krishna's disappearance causes disturbance to the devotee. Nashtradrisham refers to persons who have lost knowledge. The word drik, or sight, suggests a verse at the end of the 11th canto, quote, just as on a moonless night, people are merged into darkness and cannot find their way, now that I have lost sight of your lotus feet, my Lord, I have lost my vision and am wandering blindly in darkness. I cannot tell my direction, nor can I find any peace. This is a verse that's spoken by Daruka. You know who is Daruka? Daruka? Krishna's chariot driver. Krishna's chariot driver. He has a cowherd boyfriend named Daruka. But so Krishna was going to appear, and Daruka knew it. So instead of Daruka asking Krishna, please take me with me, don't leave me without you. Don't leave me, don't leave me behind. Krishna said that there's some service for you. So you can't come with me. There's the service for you is just after my departure, within days, the whole city of Dwarka is going to become submerged in the sea. And everybody and all their paraphernalia and everything in Dwarka is going to be under the sea. So your mission is, your assignment is, go back immediately to Dwarka, inform them that I said they should leave with all their paraphernalia, and my wives should be taken by Arjuna to Hastinapur, to Mathura, and be put in the care of devotees that will take care of them. And then Daruka is given instruction so strong that he says this verse to Krishna. From that, the following inference can be made. Krishna is the sun, and Mathura is like the sunrise mountain where Krishna rose from Mathura. Prabhas is the sunset mountain. The righteous persons are like Chakravaka birds, which mourn in the night and rejoice in the day. The evil persons are like fog. Darkness is the totality of sins. The devotees are like a grove of lotuses. Krishna is clearly compared to the sun in the following verse, 3rd canto. My dear Vidura, the sun of the world, Lord Krishna, has set. Now this is Uddhava speaking to Vidura. And our house has now been swallowed by the great snake of time. What can I say to you about our welfare? Now, Uddhava is feeling like Daruka, completely attached, and he's left behind. He was also given some service. So he can't say, no, I'm not going to do service for you. But it means separation from Krishna, so that's very difficult. Though the sun of Krishna has set, the sun of the Bhagavad Purana has risen, a form corresponding to the sun becomes the sun. That's Vishwanath's commentary on this celebrated verse. Here's what Daruka said, and here's what Uddhava said to Vidura. Same, you heard already. Now, when he's having this conversation with Vidura, it happens Canto 3, Chapter 2. So, chronologically, before he has the conversation with Vidura, he has a conversation with Krishna in Canto 3, Chapter 4, depicted here. So the scene goes, the Bhagavatam is very logical but not chronological. In the 11th canto, many chapters, we'll see images shortly, he spoke the Uddhava Gita. Uddhava already understood. Krishna hadn't left yet. He's sitting in Dwarka. And the whole scene with Prabhas and all of that hadn't happened yet. But he knows Krishna so well. Krishna, you're going to leave. Please don't leave. If you leave, take me with you. And then there's some number of chapters that Uddhava Gita is spoken in Dwarka. And then Krishna confirms, yes, I'm going to leave. But one of the services I didn't get to do during my pastimes on earth was visit the hermitage of Narayana Rishi. So you please take my message to them that I've just explained to you, and you repeat it to them. That's the service. It will sustain your life. Go. He didn't want to go. But he had a service to do. What do you do when you don't want to go? But he had service to do. You go do your service. But he was so attached to Krishna, he couldn't make it all the way to Badrinath. So he doubled back. And then when he doubled back, this is what he saw. What the painting is, he saw Krishna resting under a young banyan tree. The other person behind him was Maitreya. Maitreya happened to overhear the whole discussion between Krishna and Uddhava. And then he again informed Uddhava, please go. I mean, they had topics they discussed, but he reminded him, you have this service to do. And as you travel in that direction, in the northerly direction, you will meet Vidura. So he meets Vidura in chapter 2. But the event, predicting it, was chapter 4. And when he meets Vidura, anyway, the Bhagavatam composition is beautiful. Srimad. The Vidura was on pilgrimage, as you know. Why was Vidura on pilgrimage? He tried his best and tried his best and tried his best to make sense with Duryodhana, and he was too crazy, too demoniac. And when he insulted Vidura was like, he didn't leave because he was insulted. He left because there's no service for me here. So he left. And he left to go on pilgrimage to purify himself from that unholy, contaminating association. And he did the whole circuit around the holy places of India. And when he came back up, he just happened to find, lo and behold, there's Uddhava. Uddhava! As soon as you see Uddhava, you think of Krishna. They even look like. But he so intimately is connected with Krishna, so he started asking all about the residents of Dwarka. Although the residents of Dwarka had already annihilated themselves, and he knew it, because he had been to Brahmas before meeting Uddhava. But he didn't want to say it, because he didn't know that Uddhava knew it. So he didn't want to say it. It'd be too painful. Oh, how is everybody? By name. And Uddhava went into trance, just meditating on everybody, especially Krishna. And then he starts speaking what we read. Here's that scene, another BBT painting. Maitreya with the beard, Uddhava looking complexion-wise like Krishna. Another nice painting, not a BBT painting. And then he sent him again. So here's how many chapters? That's a lot of chapters. In Uddhava Gita, this is where Uddhava, so chronology happened before either of these other events, but is placed in the Bhagavatam much later, for reasons Vyasadeva would know. And Krishna is very kind and affectionate. And Uddhava's so brilliant that Uddhava is able to advise Krishna. At the same time, when Uddhava's hearing Krishna speak Uddhava Gita, he's realizing everything, and there's an enormous amount of understanding in the Uddhava Gita. Fantastic section of the Bhagavatam. So almost done. This is making reference again to the light of the Bhagavat, and that is, this is the final slide. We're going to be, we all celebrated Balaram Purnima. I don't know how your celebration was here, probably was very nice. I attended two. One was in Alachua, the morning of Balaram's appearance day, and then in Fort Lauderdale in the evening, two Balaram Purnima festivals. It was nice. And then the next Purnima that comes, another big festival in between, of course, Janmashtami, etc. But Bhadra Purnima. And, this celebrated verse, I'm going to end with this. If on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne. How are you going to get a golden throne? And give it as a gift, he will attain the supreme transcendental destination. Now there's a whole presentation that I'm not going to make while here for various reasons, because we're going to be celebrating Janmashtami tomorrow. That's the main reason. But I plan to do a bunch of cheerleading in Naperville and encouraging the devotees in Chicago also, encouraging the devotees to distribute Srimad Bhagavatam's sets. In St. Louis, they're having their 50th something like that. It's an anniversary of the installation of their deities, Krishna Balaram. I forget the number of years. So I'm over the Labor Day weekend. That's my plan. They're going to get more sets of the Bhagavatam, and they're going to stand on a flagpole and shout it to the sky, Srimad Bhagavatam, because this is our life. And if we do, not just we get the benefit of having a golden throne and giving it as a gift, reading it. I'll end saying this. There, Paramakruna, Gopal Krishna Maharaj's disciple, Paramakruna, has dedicated himself for a number of years to, he has a nice van that big enough he can carry lots and lots and lots and lots of books. And he travels all around the country distributing books. And periodically he just gets inspired and he sends me these photographs of people that have a stack of books like that. And they're holding and they're posing for his photograph. And he sends me the photograph and tells me a little bit about them and the circumstance. And most of it's at colleges, and some of it's other things, festivals and music festivals and things. He loves distributing books. So just 3 days ago, a girl that 3 years ago he visited her in her undergraduate school, she got Bhagavad Gita and something else, Nectar Devotion. And she read it and started chanting. And then the next year, same university, she's in graduate school and bought some more books. She now has graduated, she has her first job, and she reached out to him and said, I want a Srimad Bhagavatam set. So there she is with a whole box of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so I asked her if she wants a systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And she said, yeah, but it depends on the schedule. So I gave her two options of how she could enroll in a systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it doesn't have to be your congregation members. It can be anybody. It can be anybody. And that's how Prabhupada wanted to make this dark age of Kali come with light. The darkness means ignorance, and to the antidote for ignorance is knowledge. The knowledge of the light of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the cure for the darkness of the age of Kali. So I'm going to encourage people to read Srimad Bhagavatam and share Srimad Bhagavatam, make it available. One of the fantastic ways of doing this is setting up reading groups. You read and have other people join you in a reading group. I know some groups of people that have been doing this for years, and they've completed the entire Srimad Bhagavatam just through the reading group, which they wouldn't have done if they didn't have the Bhagavatam or didn't have the reading group. It's simple. It's a Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. And the center of that Sadhu Sangha is Srimad Bhagavatam, the sound vibration, Shabda Brahma, or Vacha, and Vachaka, delivering Krishna through sound. There we go. And it's only 9:17. I'm so sorry, but what nothing I can do. Any discussion? You're very patient to wait around and sit through all this.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for sharing wonderful references about from the scriptures regarding Bhagavatam. So my question was So with me, while reading Bhagavatam or any other, like let's say Bhagavad Gita also, so while reading through, I'm not able to keep the context, like what the things I have read in the past. I'm not able to keep the context in place. So because of that, like I know what I currently read in the current verse, but I'm not able to keep, if I have to summarize or I have to relate to what I have read previously and what it means in this particular situation. So how I can improve in that aspect, that I'm reading through the Srimad Bhagavatam and I'm also able to relate and keep the keep in my memory to the best. I mean, it's also like based on memory, like it's some part it is based on memory as well, but still how to keep that flow, that understanding, like what I have read and how it is related to what I had read previously. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Chant good japa, or strive to chant quality absorption in the holy name, because that striving, practice makes perfect. Abhyasa, practice makes perfect. So you're not perfect. Welcome to the club. So, but by practice and practice and practice, specifically with the primary benediction, the Yuga Dharma is chanting. And as we just heard Bhakti Siddhanta to describe, that implies, implicit is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. But that focus on Krishna will help you retain. Even if, fill in the blank, even if I don't understand it, if I can't remember how this connects with that. And then somebody sent me, I forget who it was that sent me. Somebody sent me a little study brain scientists have done, and the folds in the brain, the more there's folds in the brain, it's higher levels of evolved brains. Like animals are flat and smooth, so humans have more folds in their brain. They have names for the up and the down, and those people that do chanting of Sanskrit and meditation, both, their brain scan shows they're more highly evolved brain. So we are who we are, but you can improve who you are even in terms of folds in your brain by chanting. There's this thing called the Sanskrit effect. You've heard this one? Sanskrit effect. There's studies that show memory increases by chanting Sanskrit. Children, we're not children anymore, but children, when they have the inclination for chanting, their memory gets very strong, or our memory can become stronger. So it's these same things, becoming familiar with, just like, these days, I'm making a left field comment, these days devotees like Teslas more than I've seen before. And to me, that screen that's on a Tesla is too confusing. But how long does it take to learn all of those places to touch that screen so it does the thing that you want it to do? Because there's no more dials. You can't just turn the temperature up or down, or turn the fan up or down. You got to touch something on that screen. You know what I mean? So it's by practice. And somebody said, yeah, it took me about a month. Then I learned where all the things are on that screen. So you just practice. By practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, it starts to go inside. Then it's like You have to, when you first rode a bicycle, was it awkward? When you first drove a car, you're an apprentice learning to drive a car, was it awkward? And now you don't even think about it. Get on a bicycle and drive a car. So, similarly, just by becoming familiar with the Bhagavatam, then the pieces start to fit together. The memory becomes stronger. And then you go to where the acharyas give insights, and then, oh, that's how this puzzle piece fits with that puzzle piece. And one other thing, inquisitiveness, jigyasu. If you want, then you're more likely to retain than if you just read like it's, a novel or something like that, or an academic textbook. It goes deeper if it's the spiritual inquisitiveness, not information inquisitiveness, but spiritual inquisitiveness. Those are 3 answers to your responses to your question. Nice question. Slowly. Some people are faster, some people are medium, some people are slower. But stay with it. The puzzle pieces start to become more clear. Then you circle back and chant good japa. Then comes, but I'm not good at chanting japa. I'm too distracted. And that gives it an insight into why you can't remember all the puzzle pieces. Strive for attentive chanting. Anything else? Okay. Prabhupada ki jai. Before you disappear, there's Kishore Kishori Mahaprasadam in a box.